Well, we are back in the middle of a beautiful love story. There aren't any magical pumpkin coaches or even princesses, but there is a barren Moabite widow and her bitter old grumpy mother-in-law. But the story turns when Ruth begins working in a field that just so happened to belong to a distant family relative who was also very, very single. We paused in the last session once Boaz came onto the scene because I wanted to talk about his character, his strength, his prayers, and who he was. So we pick up right where we left off when Boaz notices Ruth working in the field. In verse 5 of chapter 2, Boaz asked his manager of the field, hey, who's that girl out there gleaning in the field? See, Boaz was viewing his field when he comes across what I imagine to be a gorgeous woman with long, dark, wavy hair, creamy skin that has been weathered and leathered by the beating sun. She stands to wipe her brow from the sweat that's falling from her forehead, and perhaps maybe, he locks eyes with her and he sees her. Do you think she was looking her best? No, she was sweating as she's lifting sheaves like she's competing in a CrossFit challenge. No makeup. Her one peasant outfit is filthy and stained. She smells like Bo, and I'm not talking like a French perfume. I'm saying B-O as in body odor, okay? Look at what verse 7 says. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves, behind the harvesters. She came to the field and has remained here from morning until now, except for a short rest in the shelter. See, even the field workers knew that she was a hard worker, just trying to make ends meet. What drew Boaz to Ruth was her character, honor, and humility, as we see in the following scriptures. I want to be like Ruth. I want to be a woman who's not just consumed with the outward appearances, but cultivating an inward beauty. I mean, Ruth was at her worst. She was sweaty and dirty, hot, wearing tattered clothes. But there is something about her that stood out to Boaz. I just want to point out here that Boaz first did a background check on this chick. She may be hot, but what else is there to her? Boaz rolls up onto the scene and he doesn't start dropping pickup lines. He didn't ask her for her sign or her digits. No, he sought out an analysis beforehand of this woman's character. And here we see that she's an honorable woman who shows that if she doesn't work, she doesn't eat. This is their first meeting, their first conversation. Pick back up in verse 8. So Boaz said to Ruth, my daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean another field and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I've told the men not to lay a hand on you. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars that the men have filled. Take note, Boaz is the one that approaches Ruth. Boaz is a leader, he's the initiator, he's a strong man. Boaz speaks to Ruth with careful concern by calling her my daughter. I want to pause and note that every time that there's a moment of dialogue and a title is used, that usually precedes the relationship and how the speaker is viewing the recipient. He refers to her as a daughter. He's not trying to pick up on her. This could also reveal that there was probably an age difference between Boaz and Ruth. And as a level of respect, that's what he refers to her as. God's law commands Boaz to allow Ruth to glean in this field. But see, he goes above and beyond the law that we learned in the last session. This is about grace. He provides grace to Ruth. Boaz connects her with other women in the community. Remember, she's new, she's an immigrant, she doesn't know anyone. And he told her how to receive the most food from the field. He also ordered the young men not to harass her in any way and provided water for her to quench her thirst as an act of honor and loving concern. That is a good man. That's Boaz. Check out verse 9 again. And whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars that the men have filled. See, this is interesting because in that culture, typically she would draw the water out of the well and give all the men something to drink. And he is saying, no, let the men help you with your work. You sit here and they'll give you something to drink. You can be part of this community. You're part of this team. You're gonna be honored. You're gonna be treated as an equal, and we're gonna take really good care of you. Ruth prostrates herself in a customary Middle Eastern tradition, and she bows down as a reaction to his gracious protection and provision of Boaz. In verse 10, it says, at this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you would notice me, a foreigner? Friends, Ruth does something that I completely commend. Ruth does not go to the altar emotionally. She doesn't tell him her ring size, change her last name, or run off with a bride magazine. She asked him his intentions. Why are you being so nice to me? I'm an immigrant, I'm a foreigner. I mean, she's maybe thinking, does he want to sleep with me? Does he want to take advantage of me? I mean, does he want to manipulate the situation? I'm from Moab, I know how these things go. She knows her past, she knows where she's from, and she's probably thinking, why is this man being so nice to me? There is nothing wrong about asking intentions. If there's ambiguity in a relationship, friends, clarify things. This will prevent heartache and hurt. Listen to how he responds to her inquiry. Look at verse 11 and 12. Boaz replied, I've been told all about what you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and your mother and your homeland and came to live with people that you didn't know before. Now, this is why I spent so much time talking about Boaz's prayer in the last session. He's about to pray a prayer of blessing over her in public. He's essentially saying, Ruth, your character and reputation precedes you. Everyone's talked about you. You just met the Lord and you've had a hard life, but we know that you love the Lord. You serve the Lord. You've come here to walk with God's people and live here with his people. You've been loyal and faithful to your mother-in-law. You're a hard-working woman, and I respect you. I admire you. I'm not trying to flatter you, but I want to encourage you. Wow. He says this publicly. Others get to hear it, and he's esteeming and honoring her. He's loving her, and he's speaking well of her in public. I mean, Ruth has had some very hard days. She buried her father-in-law. She buried her husband. She buried her brother-in-law. Just a few hours before this, she was hungry, possibly even starving to death. She had no hope, no friends, no job, and she took a big risk, ventured out into a new city. She meets Boaz, and this is how he treats her. And the deep desire of her heart that God would give her favor in someone's eyes has become answered in the kindness of Boaz. And if that wasn't enough, in verse 12, he's going to pray for her. This is a beautiful beginning to any relationship, a man that's praying for this woman. So in verse 12, he prays this: May the Lord repay you for what you've done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wing you have come to take refuge. And we learned in our last session, Boaz prayed this prayer and he will answer his prayer. In essence, he's saying, I pray that God would give you food. I pray that God would give you a home. I pray that God would give you friends. I pray that God would give you love. I pray that God would give you a husband. I pray that God would give you children. I pray that God would bless you in every way that God can bless. Did that prayer of Boaz come true? Did God answer that prayer? Yes. Who did God send to answer that prayer? Boaz. I will argue, based on this text of scripture, that sometimes we need to answer our own prayers. There are many functions in prayer, but I'm just gonna give you two that I feel are primary. Sometimes prayer moves the hand of God, and sometimes prayer changes the heart of the one who is asking. So Boaz is essentially saying, I pray that God will feed you, and he's gonna feed her. I pray that God would give you a home, and he's gonna bless her with the home. I pray that God will give you a husband. He's gonna be that husband. You'll read about that later. I don't wanna give too much away here. He says, I pray that God will give you a baby. And there's gonna be a baby in the future. And he's gonna be the father. He's gonna be the husband that he prayed for her. Hope is coming. Prayers are about to be answered. Now we just have to see how a meddling mother-in-law hatches up a great plan like a good yenta. Stay tuned. Can't wait to see you in our next session.